This cold blue light is often the last thing we see before we fall asleep. You've had a long day, you're physically exhausted, so you tell yourself you'll read the Bible or spend time in prayer tomorrow when you have more energy. We easily convince ourselves this is just the downtime our bodies require. We disguise our spiritual apathy and avoidance as a harmless, completely understandable need for rest. Yet somehow we can routinely find the stamina to binge 4 hours of a streaming show, even when we can't muster 5 minutes of focus to worship or pray. Because we aren't committing loud, obvious sins, we feel safe. But that absence of overt rebellion creates a dangerous false security, entirely blinding us to the reality that our defenses are already down. Spiritual laziness does not arrive with flashing lights. It is a silent, active infection. If left unchecked, it systematically dismantles your discipline, your drive, and your core purpose from the inside out. Look at this balance. We are governed by a strict binary rule of nourishment. You are constantly feeding either your flesh or your spirit. The moment your flesh grows heavier with worldly consumption, your spirit is starved and diminished. Neutrality is impossible. When you consistently feed those fleshly desires, the immediate internal consequence is the fracturing of your own spiritual awareness. The internal alarm system that usually warns you of danger is gradually silenced. The enemy rarely needs to launch a fiery frontal assault of temptation against you. It is much more effective to use a strategy of quiet attrition, slowly lulling you into a deep complacency. Unchecked spiritual laziness acts as a terminal decay that actively kills your God-given potential. It is the end of progress, not a pause in it. Paul provides an uncompromising metric for our spiritual health in Romans chapter 12, verse 11. The instruction is strict. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. The phrase spiritual fervor comes from this Greek root word, zeo. As the definition shows, it is a physical state of high energy. It literally translates to boil with heat. By this exact standard, a seasonal faith is a theological impossibility. God isn't asking for occasional warmth when your schedule allows. He requires a continuous burning state of operation. This reveals the true root of spiritual laziness. When you stop engaging with your faith, it is never a symptom of being too physically busy. It is a symptom of being entirely disconnected from your divine purpose. Purpose is the fuel that generates your operational energy. The very second you disconnect from that underlying purpose, your spiritual engine inevitably stalls and your fire begins to cool. Consider a clinical case of a man in his late 60s who had faithfully served in ministry for decades. One day, he decided he had finally put in enough time. He felt he had earned a break from the rigorous demands of spiritual exertion. The first symptom of his unofficial retirement was entirely hidden from public view. Almost immediately, his private prayer life completely evaporated. Very soon after, the external, visible consequences followed. His family noticed a stark shift, a sharp increase in anger, constant daily irritability, and a noticeable lack of grace. He didn't experience a scandalous moral failure. He simply fell asleep at the wheel. The roaring fire of his earlier years had steadily reduced to a thin wisp of smoke. His decline proves an inescapable rule to us. Regardless of your history or how long you've walked with God, the exact moment you stop actively pressing into your faith, spiritual rot immediately takes hold. Spiritual momentum is not a currency you can deposit into a savings account to draw on later. The zeal you had yesterday offers zero protection against the natural entropy pulling at you today. So how do we fight back? We start by recognizing a baseline truth of human existence. As long as you have breath in your lungs, you possess an active, unfulfilled purpose that demands your energy. If your fire has gone cold, God isn't standing over you as a wrathful judge eager to hand out punishment. He is your ally, waiting patiently at the altar, entirely ready to facilitate your reignition. The first tactical step is to aggressively meditate on Romans 12:11 every single day. Next, you set a non-negotiable boundary, at least 10 minutes dedicated exclusively to prayer and reading scripture, daily, regardless of how tired you feel. Then you implement the physical countermeasure of fasting. By denying your body food, even partially once a week, you intentionally starve the flesh and reassert the absolute dominance of your spirit. God does not require flawless execution from you. The only thing required to break the cycle of decay is the sheer willingness to undergo the friction of burning again. Look at the trajectory of your days. It is a devastating incongruity to allow your inner spirit to lie dormant in a coma, while your biological life aggressively marches forward. You have to physically verbalize your new operating parameters. Say it out loud right now. I will never lack zeal. I will keep my spiritual fervor. I will serve my purpose. Maintaining this fire requires constant vigilance. It is a daily hostile war against your own natural entropy that a single one-time prayer cannot resolve. Allowing spiritual laziness to take root is simply a conscious choice to die quietly. Consider Romans 12:11 your immediate life-saving alarm. It's time to wake up and it's time to burn.